The Oklahoma City Thunder has been nothing short but amazing this whole season, and I feel like me included, including everybody else as well, have to admit that we were wrong when we were talking about this team and our expectations of this team coming into this season. From last season, they really was not that great. They were the 10th spot in the play-in tournament, and they got bounced out pretty early. But this season has been a completely different season for them. Last year, there was just a 40 and 42 team. Nothing to really be excited for. Not many people think that they were going to be as good as they were last year. Honestly, I think a lot of people saw that, even with Chet being in the lineup now, they probably would not be the team that they are currently. They would probably be around the same record and not necessarily make any type of movement up towards being one of the better teams in the NBA. But I feel like we have all been bamboozled and we have been lied to because the reality is the bones of the team, the players that's within the team are pretty good. And we see this time and time again where we have teams where, you have really good players on the team, but in terms of actually progressing those players and having those players get better year after year after year, we see a lot of times teams like that doesn't necessarily make that jump or make that leap, let alone make a gigantic leap that they have made so far in the season. And who are the bones? Who are the foundation of this team? Right now, the foundation of the team, who has always been, at least for the last couple of years, has been Dortz being the defensive anchor of the team, being the person that, he'll do all the dirty work. He'll take the shots and he'll be a little bit efficient, not really efficient from the three-pointer, but he'll be the one that actually cleans up the boards, do everything that needs to be done in order for the team to succeed. And then you have Jalen Williams, who's been a nice little surprise. That was a rookie last year. And he just is good. But, we all thought that, he's just going to have a natural, incline and improve from year to year. But at least nobody thought that he would be this good. And then you have Shai, and he has been as phenomenal as he's always been. If you guys love basketball, you're definitely going to look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and see his game is just one of the most pretty games to look at. Very, very similar to Paul George. And you're going to see a lot of new players up and coming play in a very similar capacity to Paul George, because I feel like Paul George's game style is one of the best game styles to emulate in terms of you don't have to be too fast, you don't have to be too tall. It's really all just pacing. And Shai has gotten that down to a T. But we all have to question ourselves, is Shai going to be efficient and a good scorer on a winning team? Because it's easy to score points when you're losing. It's not that easy to score points when you're winning. And then we have Chet, who was sidelined last year because LeBron's big-ass foot stepped on his and broke his foot, broke many bones in his foot, and so he had to take the whole year off, and is now starting his rookie season this year. And so a lot of people saw that, okay, cool, Chet is going to be on the team. We don't know exactly how he's going to progress into the NBA, how he's going to adapt, but man, we are seeing this adaptation for this team, and it has been lights out. They have a number 6 offensive rating, which is phenomenal, especially compared to last year where they were not that good. And then they also have a number 3 ranked defense. Now I'll get back to the defense because the defense is what really inspires me about this team more than anything that they can do on offense. But like I said, the bones of the team are Lou Dortz, J-Dubs, Shai, and Chet Holmgren. And the amount of improvement that they've had so far in this season is astonishing. If we're going to start, we got to start with Lou Dortz, who's always been an excellent role player. He's been a great role player, but he's always struggled with the three-pointer. And this year, he's shooting 41% from 3, averaging around 11 points a game. Now, granted, he's not really taking that many threes a game, and so we're probably going to see a little bit of regression to the means of him going back to around like maybe 35, even 36%. But 35 to 36% is way better than he has averaged in his whole career. And so having that be an average three-point shooter in the NBA, seeing that vast of improvements is something that honestly just opens up the floor for everybody else, especially since he's not the guy that's going to be dominating the ball or doing anything flashy of that sense, but he's going to be the guy that's going to get you buckets, and he's going to be the guy that's going to get the team to be where they need to be because he's doing all the hard work, all the dirty work, sliding on loose balls, going crazy for the rebounds, and just being one of the most consistent effort defensive players on the team. And then we have J-Dubs, who last year, he was pretty good. Like, we cannot front that he was not pretty good. But this year, man, just like Dortz, made a huge jump into three-point percentage. He is shooting 43% from three with 3 attempts per game. Now, like I said, we might see a little bit of regression to the mean, so that might go down a little bit. Granted, we are 29 games within the season, and this is a really good start for them, especially since, usually around like the 40 game part of the season, we see a little bit of a dive in terms of numbers. But even still, 43% from three is elite level shooting. And he's averaging 18 points a game with 52% field goal percentage. I mean, this guy is a bucket. And if you guys watch the Oklahoma City Thunder's games, they don't really take that many threes, but they take very efficient and wide open threes. They're not taking a lot of threes off the dribble, and even if they do take threes off the dribble, there's a lot of separation, or enough separation enough for them to get the shot off without much of a contest. And then I'd be remiss to not talk about Chet Holmgren, who, like I said, we didn't really have a baseline of who he's going to be when he gets into the NBA. Of course, he's been in the NBA for 2 years now, and this is his first season playing, but nothing is like having those live reps. And he was sidelined for last year, and he really couldn't get no reps. And so this is the first time he's been on the court, and he's averaging 17 points a game with 7 rebounds a game, and is shooting 41% from three on 4 3-points per game. This man is electric, and he's doing a lot of these scoring, not with just being the heliocentric guard and just taking people off the dribble, because there's still a little bit problems within his game in terms of physicality because of how tall he is and how skinny he is. His center of gravity is easily influenced by people who are a little bit shorter than him, a little bit stronger than him, and so he's going to get knocked off his square more likely than not. But he's able to take wide open shots, take more efficient shots, and move off ball. That's one of the great things about his game, is that he's pretty efficient in the way that he scores. But I'd be remiss to tell you guys that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the reason why this team is going the way that it goes. Now, like I said, if you guys watch the games, the Oklahoma City Thunder doesn't take that many threes. But the threes that they do take is good enough. And that they shoot those threes very efficiently. Now, why is this important? Because they are a drive-first team. They live in the mid-range, and Shai lives in the mid-range as well. A lot of his shots, he's shooting very efficiently, shooting around 55% field goal percentage, and he's shooting around the mid-range, giving a lot of space on the court because everybody now is an efficient shooter, and they are pretty knocked down shooters when you think about it. And so this opens up the floor for everyone, but especially Shai. He is averaging 31 points per game. 31 points per game. He was doing that last year when they weren't necessarily a winning team, probably more so on the bottom tier teams, even though they made it to the play-ins, but they made it on the 10th spot. He's shooting 31 points per game efficiently with a winning record, and that is very, very, very impressive. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, if you guys love basketball, there's no way you look at Shai's game and you say, hey, this guy doesn't have it. Like, this guy, when you watch his game, is so smooth. His dribbles, his handles is very efficient. He doesn't waste anything. There's no wasted energy. He gets where he needs to be. He delays his drives. He is one of the carbon copies of Paul George. And if you know basketball, you know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of play styles and game styles, and how the way Paul George scores is very similar to how Shai scores. But the difference is that Shai loves living in the mid-range, which is historically is one of the most inefficient shots in the game. But the reason why, even with all that I said on offense, the reason why I really, really love this Oklahoma City Thunder team is not just because of the offense and how everybody's taking a leap, right? It is because defensively, they are dogs. We have some menaces on the defensive end, and it starts not with the bigs, it starts with the guards. And usually you don't see that on every other team. Usually you see the defensive anchor be somewhere, maybe the swings at best, but almost always the centers. You almost never see it with the guards. And so now in this season, we have Dortz, who's always been known to be a defensive menace, averaging 1 steal a game. You have J-Dubs averaging 1 steal a game. But Shai is averaging around 2 to 3 steals a game with 1 block. If your guards are going against these 3 players on the court, they're having a tough time. Now, a lot of these guards like J-Dubs or even Lou Dortz are bigger guards, they're stronger guards. When you look at Shai, you don't look at him as like a really strong guard, but he's strong enough and dealing with all that pressure, because when you switch 1 through 3, you're not really gaining an advantage. But let's just say you get past them. Then who you have to deal with in the paint? You have Chet, who's been averaging around 2 to 3 blocks and close to 1 steal a game as well. And so the Oklahoma City Thunder, which has been a pleasant surprise, one of the biggest surprises in the NBA outside of the Timberwolves, has just been on fire. And I don't think with the way that they're playing, and I actually watch the games, right? I don't look at it as like, what are they averaging or how many points they get per game. I look at how they score and I look at how they play defense. And if it's smooth and efficient, I can see them having this style of offense, having this style of defense all the way into the playoffs. And so right now they're ranked, I think, around 3rd in the NBA standings right now for the Western Conference. But when you think about it, when you see the way that they're playing, I can definitely see them still locking down that number 3 spot, barring any injuries. And with the way that Shai is rolling and the way that Chet is rolling, there's no way anybody can stop this team in a 7-game series outside of maybe a few. But like I said, they're a pleasant surprise. So even with the prediction that I just made, I can still be wrong. They have so much defensive talent. They have so much offensive talent, especially with the way that Shai is rolling. This team is going to be real dangerous when it comes playoff time.